Joining me now for more on this is Senior Fellow and Chief Economist at the Institute of Public Affairs, Adam Creighton. Adam, we have lots of policies aimed at young people in this election, a lot of focus on first home buyers, but really nothing on this very crucial issue. And it speaks about so much. It speaks about all sorts of societal issues as well as economic issues.
Well, certainly one of the reasons why I think young couples are not having children is because of too high house prices. And yet the housing policies that have been proposed in this election will actually push up those prices even more. So far from having no policies on the issue, the policies are actually bad for the issue. It's, it is a glaring omission that there's nothing being said on either side of politics about this serious issue. 1.4 is seriously low, and I would say it's actually worse than that if you look at the native-born population. So often it's
they're talking about record lows,
yeah. So often it's migrant communities who have a lot of children. So the native-born communities are having even less than 1.4. And the problem in this country is we've just relied on immigration for so long, mass immigration. We had 1.2 million people come into this country in net terms in just 3 years from 2022 to now. And so no one's looking at this. So if we slow the immigration down, we're going to notice the birth rate effect much, much more. We could get creative like Hungary, for instance, where I think recently there's a law change there that if a woman has 4 kids, she never pays income tax again. So that's a creative solution that may or may not work, but we should note that governments around the world have tried throwing money at families to have children, and it's very, very hard. I mean, the Japanese government, case in point, the birth rate there is even lower, the population's shrinking very fast, and they spend a fortune on trying to get women to have children. Some of it is psychological. We've got so much climate change propaganda that some very misled young people are scared to have children. So that's another issue too.
Absolutely. I think it speaks about all sorts of issues in a country when people don't want to have kids. I think it's even deeper than just housing cost and cost of living pressures. And you're right about Hungary. They have instituted a raft of policies and they are working. They have seen their birth rate boost. And you don't have to have 4 kids. They're not that. You can have just 1 child as a woman and you'll get a 25% discount on your income tax rate that you're charged. And you have 2 kids, 50% discount. So there's a real incentive. But I think Australia, we just rely on immigration and we don't see this as a real issue because we'll just bring in more people.
Yeah, look, there's a crazy belief out there too that the world's population is spiralling out of control.
Wow.
Well, actually, as Elon Musk always points out, it's actually going to be spiralling out of control in a downward direction pretty soon. Because birth rates are falling everywhere. So
even China,
it's quite a scary, in China as well.
Instituted a one-child policy is now seeing the impact of that, and it's going to be devastating for them in the medium term. Now, let's talk about the Smart Energy Council, a green lobby group with links to Labor. And they've got a senior advisor who's at Simon Holmes Accord. You've heard of him. Well, the Smart Energy Council has been caught accepting thousands of dollars in funding from renewable energy companies accused of using Uyghur slave labour in China. One of those firms is a major Chinese solar panel manufacturer, Jinko Solar. And Simon Holmes Accord actually attended a tour of one of their Chinese factories back in 2019 as part of a delegation led by the Smart Energy Council. The council has a track record of donating to the ALP and has run campaigns telling voters to bin the coalition. It is responsible for the disputed claim that the opposition's nuclear policy will cost $600 billion. Adam, I struggle to understand how this mob, this group, enjoys charity status.
Well, they always give themselves fancy names like Smart Energy Council to give the illusion of, that it's bipartisan, when it's clearly not. These are just highly political outfits. The $600 billion figure, actually, the coalition should be pushing back more against that. Where does it come from? And let's face it, even if it's true, at least we would get some nuclear power stations for the $600 billion rather than borrowing $500 billion during COVID. For everyone to stay at home. But the point here from this that I drew was just the extraordinary hypocrisy on the left with climate change, that you've got this slave labour being used to build the solar panels, and these are the same people who would say, oh, we need the highest industrial standards, the highest workplace standards. So, just extraordinary hypocrisy, I would say.
Now, the US is actively considering 15 bespoke agreements with 15 unnamed countries, and the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is prioritising quick agreements with South Korea, United Kingdom and Australia, prioritising deals with the US's strongest allies. Meanwhile, Adam, a top Chinese official has launched an extraordinary attack against President Trump and America over the decision to slap a 145% levy on goods from China. He called the move brutally unreasonable. The senior Chinese official who oversees Hong Kong and Macau said the US isn't after our tariffs, but our very survival. Let those peasants in the United States wail in front of the 5,000 years of Chinese civilization. Goodness me. China's not used to a powerful country standing up to them.
No, certainly not. Look, I mean, I'm not surprised that they're angry. I mean, some of the language is quite amusing, but we've got, we have a bullfight here between the two biggest bulls in the world. So it could get quite aggro. Let's hope it never gets to a military point. But on the trade front, there's going to be a lot of tariffs slapped on either side, and hopefully Australia comes out of it okay in the end. But it's worth pointing out too, kind of your earlier story there about the possibility of an agreement with the US. I mean, we've done reasonably well out of this. There's tariffs have gone on all countries, and we've just got 10%, and that may even be lessened. Based on your story earlier. So, I think there's been a huge hysterical reaction in Australia about this policy.
Ridiculous.
And it's been completely over the top. Let's wait and see.
Completely over the top, particularly when you look at other nations who've got tariffs against our products, and there seems to be little objection there. And
also China going to stop you. I mean, China, basically blockaded our coal for ages
because we asked
many of our farming products, and there was nowhere near the reaction here that there has been with the US. Please, ridiculous.
Ridiculous, and also the way you're seeing people siding with this communist regime, the communist regime that enslaves Uyghurs because of their religious beliefs, that has slave labour, that has political dissidents who are facing the death penalty. And you've got people who supposedly value human rights siding with China because Donald Trump.
It's very telling. I think they actually do like the Chinese model of governance more, even though they don't say it, and that's why they don't attack them. They quite like the totalitarianism. They think it's efficient. They think it works. They don't like the US idea of freedom.
Yeah,
that's the real issue.